Okay, we're back on the cycle class. We're going to pick up where we left off from last week. We're going to break down alcoholism, and it's a threefold disease. The alcoholism is affected in the mind, the body, and the spirit. So we have to be qualified as a real alcoholic addict and realize that alcohol or drugs are not our problem, but alcoholism is the problem. And it's a fatal disease. And so if we don't recognize what the problem is and then figure out how to treat that problem with the solution, which is God, and working the steps and living them out and staying in the three parts, then we'll never get off this cycle and we'll never recover. See, we got to understand what the problem is. So we take time to break down the true problem is alcoholism if you're a real alcoholic addict. So last week we went over the mind piece and this sick mind that we have, this mental obsession that somehow, some way we're going to drink and enjoy it and control it like we see other people doing. For whatever reason, we're insane around this and we keep going back, and if we don't understand what the problem is and treat the problem properly, we can't just remove the drugs and alcohol. Those were the only things that treated us internally before. So when we remove the drugs and alcohol without replacing it with how to treat the alcoholism properly with God and the things of God, we get worse. So we're sitting in this restless, irritable, and discontent state, and the mind, our alcoholic mind, is so sick that once again we believe the lie that we're going to control it and enjoy it like we see others doing. Although before, all this experience and the consequences tell us otherwise. But this great mental obsession, we keep going back to it, And actually where there's no choice but to keep drinking and using once we don't treat the malady and the threefold disease properly. So we left off on the mind piece, okay? There's a second piece to this thing. It's the body piece. This is what separates someone from a moderate drinker or a heavy drinker, and we get in this qualified place as being the real alcoholic addict. Okay, so let's go over the body piece. This body piece right here is because of the way I'm wired genetically, I seem to have a physical allergy to alcohol. Okay, I was born that way, right? It's like being born allergic to peanuts. I don't know why some people are allergic to peanuts and others aren't. When somebody eats peanuts that are allergic to peanuts, their body breaks it down differently. Their throat swells up. They're getting ready to die. They have to be rushed into the ER. I can eat Reese's peanut butter cups and nothing happens to me. I don't have the same effect as somebody who's allergic to peanuts. So there are people in this world that can drink alcohol and somehow control it and enjoy it and go to work and hold things together. Right? So I happen to not be that person. I can't drink it and control it and enjoy it like I see others doing. There's an allergic reaction that happens in my body, and we have to find out if that's also your case, right? It says, when I put it in my body, there is something called a phenomenon of craving that develops, and I have no control. Not everybody has this piece. The phenomenon of craving does not develop in every single person. The alcoholic addict, the true ones, have this body piece where this phenomenon of craving develops. Okay? This is stuff that will hopefully help us have a breakthrough in this, to be desperate to see God and do the things of God, right? Because we're in a predicament that we're not going to get better. So we have this phenomenon of craving that happens when we put it in our body. We have no control, and then we go on sprees, and then we're right back on this cycle. The cycle that we emerged remorseful from how many times, made these firm resolutions, all these promises, that's it, I'm done, I'm never going to do it again. I got removed from, the alcohol was out of my system, so why do I keep going back, right? This is a form of insanity. So this doesn't happen in everyone. This is what separates the real alcoholic from the moderate drinker, hard drinker, right? So we're going to read from page 20 and 21. Well, it breaks down the moderate drinker, the hard drinker, and then the real alcoholic. See, you have to be honest with yourself and be qualified properly as this real alcoholic addict, because if you are that, you'll know that you have a death wish. And you probably will be more willing to do certain things, because if you don't do certain things, you're going to get sick again. It's like having a terminal cancer that you are going to die. This is not going to get better. This cancer is going to eat through your body, and you're going to get sicker and sicker and sicker until you go crazy and until you die. Okay? All you have to do is take this pill and walk around the block 2 times and go tell your neighbor that you love them. Okay? And then none of us would not follow through with these simple things that you have to do in order to keep the terminal cancer from coming back and killing you. Who wouldn't follow these simple things? It's the same thing with this. You have a terminal disease that's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And you only have to follow a few simple suggestions to stay on this spiritual path. And you will stay spiritually fit enough to not go back on this cycle. Why can't a person follow these certain simple suggestions? Maybe they don't think they're a real alcoholic addict. So we got to find this out. Because if you really are and you're honest with yourself, you'll probably go through with the necessary things. You have the desperation of a drowning man. Someone comes along, you realize you're in that situation. Here they come with a tugboat. They throw you a life preserver to drag you out of your situation. You're sinking and drowning. You're going to die without help. They say, I know a way to pull you out and keep you out. And I'm cool. I don't like your tugboat. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a bass fishing boat. I'm not getting on that tugboat. Nah, I'm cool. I don't like the way you look. I don't like your life preserver. Yeah, I'll wait as you're waddling in the water about to die. And someone comes to you and says, if you're this real alcoholic, there is a 100% way out of your situation, but you have to do certain things and follow certain simple things. Why can't you do that? It's like, is that serious and clear? Like, I really want to know. Maybe you don't think you are. Maybe you think you're uniquely different and you don't have to do certain things. Because I'm just wondering, because it matters so much that we do what we need to do so we don't kill ourselves and hurt everybody we touch. Why can't you follow a simple program of action so that you don't ever relapse again? That's all I'm saying. Okay, page 20. It's at the bottom of page 20, okay? It says, right above moderate drinkers, I'm going to say, there's people whose reactions are very different from ours. Okay, we know that. You see at the bottom of page 20? Moderate drinkers, for example, have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone, right? There's people that have different reactions to alcohol once it's put in your body. There's moderate drinkers that just drink on occasions, eggnog in their brandy for Christmas, or there's a birthday party on New Year's. They have a couple glasses of champagne. Right? Moderate drinkers, they can take it or leave it alone. The alcohol doesn't do in them what it might do to a real alcoholic. And you would find yourself in these situations and all these consequences in your life. There would have been enough eventually probably where you would have been like, you know what, I'm just going to leave it alone. If you could. If you had the power to leave it alone. If you could choose whether or not you're going to leave it alone. See? An alcoholic, a real alcoholic addict, you can't choose whether or not you're going to leave it alone. We keep putting it in our body and we don't have control over it. So we're definitely not a moderate drinker, right? None of you are. That's for sure. Okay, then we have a certain type of hard drinker. What about the hard drinkers? He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally. It may cause him to die a few years before his time. If sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. So the hard drinker could look a lot like the real alcoholic. You probably had buddies that were shoulder to shoulder with you, partying, drinking, and then here comes the coke and that. It's like, man, they look a lot like the real alcoholic addict. But for whatever reason, over time, they can choose to leave it alone. if the girl, they fell in love, and the girl says, why can't you just stop for me? We got a future together. I love you. You love me. Please stop. Or it's causing you to become ill. Your health is affected. And doctors even tell you, hey, look, you better stop drinking because you're about to die. Some of those people may be difficult. They think about it, said, I'm done. I'm going to choose not to drink. The real alcoholic can't do that. They cannot choose not to drink. I didn't know that. I was like, what? And I was that real alcoholic addict. And I still was like, this sounds weird. But I know it to be true now. So it says, next paragraph on page 21. But what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker, right? Maybe, drinking just on the weekends at first, right? Very, very quickly, for me anyway, become a daily thing. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. Here is a fellow who has been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. This lack of control. I can be removed from the alcohol. My sick mind, as I'm sitting in the malady, it's kicking my butt. My sick mind, once again, tells me why I'm going to enjoy it and control it like I see other people's doing. But when I put it in, there's this allergy piece that I have that others don't, that this phenomenon of craving kicks in. And then what do? I go on a spree. Proven. And this lack of control baffles people. How do you explain that lack of control? Right? And the big book does a great job of explaining it. Okay? Let's turn to doctor's opinion, XXIX, and try to understand this a little bit more. Okay? You guys are blessed to be having this information presented to you in a clear way right out of the big book. Blessed, dude. People don't get this opportunity. Okay? And then you, of course, the Bible leads the way always and forever. And you add this to the Bible, you cannot fail. But unfortunately, this information is not explained in a clear way a lot of times. But you won't have that excuse, will you? Okay, so doctor's opinion at the bottom of the page, XXIX. Let's see. Actually, at the top of the page, second sentence, doctor's opinion, XXIX. Let's talk about this body piece a little more and see if we can understand it. It says, drinks which they see, you see it? Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. What is impunity? The freedom from the injurious consequences of an action. So we see other people who aren't real alcoholics taking these drinks without impunity. They don't suffer the same consequences that we suffer. Why? Because they're probably not a real alcoholic. They don't have these three things going on. They don't have this allergy that when they put the alcohol in their body, the phenomenon of craving kicks in for the real alcoholic. So we, as real alcoholics, we suffer these injurious consequences. Right? What kind of injurious consequences do you suffer when you put alcohol back in your body that the next guy wouldn't? Loss of job, lost relationship, become homeless, on and on and on. Right? We see others taking these drinks with impunity. Okay? It says, now, after watching others, we've been removed for a while, like it can be out of our system, right? It says, after they have succumbed to the desire, again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, truth and consequence, and we're remorseful, making another firm resolution, which once again turns into a broken promise, right? Unless we figure out how to treat this properly. Because we keep going back to the only thing we know to treat it is alcohol and drugs. We can only sit in this for so long until we just give in and the insanity comes back and there we are back on the cycle. Right? Okay, let's go to XXIX towards the bottom of the page. Okay? XXIX toward the bottom page. It says they took a drink a day or so. Let's see where. There's the third sentence to the bottom of the page. Okay. Here it goes. Even when something is about to be favorable to us in our lives, you know, things are going bad, we drink. Things are going good, we drink. He's about to get set up with a favorable opportunity. How many opportunities did I self-sabotage? Oh my gosh. Opportunity after opportunity. So something favorable was about, and then what does it say? They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomena of craving at once became paramount to all other interests. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. So, the craving started once the drink was put in our body. And our body breaks it down differently than others' bodies could. And this phenomenon of craving, and then what happens when the phenomenon of craving kicks in? We lose all control, and that takes precedence and becomes paramount over all other interests. So we've made all this ground, we've come all this far, we get things situated once again in our life. We move, we get the job, we get the girl, yada, yada, yada. We all have the same stories. And yet, we self-sabotage and bring it all down once again because probably wasn't okay inside, right? And didn't even know what was really going on. And we tried to ignore it, tried to fight it off. And yet, we went back to the thing that we know damages everything good in our life. And there we are back on this merry-go-round. We have to know what's going on. Like, as soon as you put any alcohol in your body, just like if you were allergic to peanuts, it's not going to go well for you. But here's the problem. We're insane around continuing to drink. No matter how many times we've been burnt by it, by the hot stove, we keep going back to it. Why? We need to find out and understand exactly the situation we're in, understand the problem, so we have the desperation to, on a daily basis, treat it, right? That's what we're trying to do. Okay, now, this craving becomes paramount over any other thing going on in our life. Turn with me to XXX, the next page, on the doctor's opinion. And let's just wrap our mind around this one. Okay, all these and many others. Where's that? Let's see. Find that on the page. A little more than halfway down. It's the start of a paragraph. You see it there? All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. Okay? So every time we drink, we're going to develop this phenomenon of craving. That's going to take us to places we don't want to go. And that becomes paramount, the most important thing in our life once we go down that road. Okay, so it says, the phenomena, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, right? It's trying to break this down, which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. Are you that person? This is so important to understand. Are you the real alcoholic? You still may be sorting through that. You guys look like real alcoholics to me, but hey, you have to decide for yourself. Because if you are, you will have to follow this spiritual program of action. Or you'll find out the hard way that you're right back on the cycle. So it says, this is what differentiates us from other people, right? This body piece is a very important piece to understand. Okay? It says, the only relief we have to suggest is what? Someone read that. What's the only relief?
Entire abstinence.
Entire abstinence. What does that mean?
Stay away from it completely.
Completely? Or just for like a long period of time? Completely. Not a long period of time. Not like a year. And then, hey, I've been waiting for you. My birthday's coming up. There's a big celebration. Do you understand? Entire abstinence if you're allergic to peanuts, are you keep going and trying to sneak in a Reese's peanut butter cup? Are you? The first chance you get. You're going to be at a Christmas party. It's been a year, right? Last Christmas, you've been away. Christmas comes around, and there's just a Christmas tree one. You know, the Christmas tree Reese's peanut butter cups? And there it is, sitting right there. No one's really watching, and you were just going to slick by and I'll save this for later and run to the bathroom and act like you're using the bathroom. And are you going to do that? Because once it's in your body, your body doesn't break it down like someone else's body does, and you're going to have a allergic reaction, and the phenomenon of craving is going to develop in you, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose all control. You're going to go on another spree, and that's going to be your situation, like it's been mine so many times. The truth and consequences are coming, my friend, if we don't understand what we're up against. Okay? Now, and you don't have to go this route. That's what's so cool about this. That's why we need to discuss it. We need to understand it. We need to be serious about this. Because your choices, like mine, affect a lot of people. You guys would break my heart if this happens again. There's no need for it to happen again, right? Because we're understanding the problem and the solution. So it's up to us to continue to do the things we need to do. Okay, entire abstinence. No more peanuts. No more peanuts. Okay, the general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. If you're like me, you're sitting there absolutely doomed. Doomed. If your life hasn't told you by now that you cannot get off that cycle, you keep going back on the cycle and destroying everything good in your life, you're never going to stop going back on this cycle if you don't treat these three parts with God and the things of God. You are absolutely doomed. So is this something? And then if we have this hope of understanding our situation, but then being explained what it's going to take to treat it and to 100% guarantee you never to go back on the cycle, isn't that exciting? I find that super exciting. There was no answer for that real alcoholic addict. There's millions of people out there right now not able to change. But there's a way to change. But we have to understand the problem first and then apply the solution to the problem. You are doomed without this spiritual path. You are doomed without God's help. Like that, you need to know that. This is the only reason why we're serious about it, because it's that serious. Like, dude, the problem of alcoholism has been solved. Come on now. That should be exciting, dude. Because I know it plagued me forever. So we are doomed. That should really help us understand step one. I am powerless and my life is completely unmanageable. I will not get off this cycle without God's help. Okay? We're going to go to page 30 now and see a little bit more about this body piece. Because when we understand alcoholism and drug addiction and what it really is, we can recover from it and stay recovered. Okay, chapter 3, more about alcoholism. I'm going to read page 30 and a little bit into 31, and hopefully we just keep understanding what the problem is, and then we take action to treat it. It's one thing to understand it, but you still got to take action to treat it, right? Okay, page 30, top of page 30. Ready? Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. So that's the start. Like, are you a real alcoholic? Do you think that you've just been mislabeled and misunderstood, and you could possibly be a heavy drinker, and you can quit without God's help, without doing these certain things on a daily basis? Like, if you don't admit to yourself and honest with yourself that you are that real alcoholic, then how's any change going to come? Right? Are you or aren't you? You need to decide and figure this out while you're here. You have a whole year to figure this out. Hopefully you don't take that long. Okay? It says this. No person likes to think he is bodily, right? Bodily and mentally different. How are we bodily and mentally different? We have this allergy in our body that when we put alcohol in us or drugs in us, it develops a phenomenon of craving in us, like being allergic to peanuts, that other people don't have. So you have to admit this. I didn't like this. I didn't even understand this part. This part was like, I kind of, the mind was interesting. I loved the spirituality piece. The body piece was like, first of all, I don't even think that's true, first of all. And second of all, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But it's making more and more sense. It explains a lot once you start understanding this piece, right? It says, because I didn't want to admit I was bodily, I'm bodily different and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people, right? How many times did we emerge remorseful, make firm resolutions? Okay, and then after we sit in this for a while, the malady's acting up. I'm still selfish to the core. I'm not looking at God and doing a spiritual path in my life. All of a sudden, if I sit in this malady long enough, that thought comes back and I fall for it. You know, that I can drink like other people. That's what the great obsession is. What do we keep obsessing over, guys? That we're going to enjoy it and control it. That it's not going to once again strip the whole goodness of it all out of our life. We keep obsessing over that. And only God can relieve us of that mental obsession. It's that form of insanity. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to put your cheek back on that hot stove over and over and over because you've been burnt by it so many times. Why are you going to go back and drink and use when you know the consequences from it? Because you're insane around this, right? And you don't even have a choice to keep doing it until we understand the problem and treat the problem properly. Okay? So, all these vain attempts, right? Okay, the idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession. You see? Of every abnormal drinker, the persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. That's what it was talking about. The real alcoholic is doomed. You are doomed without receiving this help. You will pursue these actions into insanity or death. I know my history proved it to myself. You have to decide for yourself the situation you're in. But it'll bring you hope because there's a way out, and hopefully the desperation to take it serious. That's what we're trying to get the point across, right? We learned, next paragraph, page 30, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves, right, that we were alcoholics. I can't do that for you. Your mom can't do that for you. Your wife can't do that for you. You are the only one that can do that. You have to be honest to your innermost self that this is you. You're a real alcoholic addict, and you are doomed without having to do these certain things. Okay? It says, this is the first step in recovery, right? That's that first step. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. We alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. Okay? Right? We have lost the ability to control our drinking. That's the body piece, the no control. Here we go. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. Okay? We never recover control, even though we can go to treatment for a year, or we can move and start that new job, and for a couple months stay away, and then coworkers, hey, invite us over after work, and hey, to see them drinking a few drinks with impunity, not suffering the consequences, and maybe I can handle it this time, right? That's the biggest lie. How many people have got took out over that? You never regain control of your drinking, okay? It says this, all of us felt at times that we were regaining control, right? Maybe we did go out early on after being removed for a while, and we proved to ourselves, man, I went out, had a couple drinks, and I went home. Yeah, that night, I'm usually out the same night. I don't know who else would be able to relate to that. I go out the same night. But sometimes maybe you had a month of like going out and having a couple, and then you're really in a bad spot because you're lying to yourself, okay? Because you'll find out the hard way if you're a real alcoholic addict. So it says, we at times we think we're regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, you see, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the group of a progressive illness, right? And we're going to touch on that next week when we talk about the spiritual malady. This thing is progressive, right? It never gets better. It only gets worse. We can stay away for a time. If you go back, you quickly are right back where you left off. This thing is progressive, right? Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs, okay? Think about this. You're not a lizard. We're not lizards. We're humans. They never grow new ones. How cool would that be? You lost a leg, and all of a sudden you sprouted out a new one like a lizard's tail. But here's an analogy. You can never regain control of your drinking. Just like if you lost your leg, you wouldn't grow a new leg. Okay? They're giving us some analogies here. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. We're just not like other people. Right? These three pieces will point out to you, and the body piece is so important to understanding. Like, we're in this group of people, of small 15% of the whole world, that have this genetic build. They're genetically wired this way, where we don't process alcohol like some. The phenomenon of craving happens in us. Okay, and we're never going to regain control. The only answer is entire abstinence, except for the fact that we can't stay away on our own power. You see the predicament we're in? I'm almost done. I got 2 more minutes. We have tried it's top of 31. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Right? Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. You see that? There is no such thing as eventually, somehow, some way, making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Okay? Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. Despite all we can say, many who are real alcoholics are not going to believe they are in that class. Really? Are we in that much denial that we're not going to believe that we're in the class of a real alcoholic? By every form of what? Of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule. By every form of self-deception. Do you understand that? Lying to ourselves and experimentation, that we will somehow, someday be able to enjoy it and control it like we see others doing. Okay, I'm going to end on page 22, and we'll have covered the body piece, and then next week we can do the spiritual malady piece. Okay, 22, page 22, it says, once he takes. See if you can find that. I'll tell you exactly where it is here in a minute. at the very bottom of page 22, about 3 sentences up. You see it? Here we go. Once he takes any alcohol, whatever, in his system, something happens both in the bodily and the mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. Once we take any alcohol in our system, because we're that real alcoholic, and this body piece, we have it genetically wired this way, that just like someone allergic to peanuts, we have to understand, once it goes in, our body reacts in the way it does, and the phenomenon of craving kicks in, and that becomes paramount over everything good in our life. And we can't stop. We're just back on the cycle. So that was the body piece. Next week we'll cover the spiritual piece. We'll talk about the spiritual malady. So see you next week.